Hello guys, this is the third installment of my 89 GT Mustang Turbo project. I've been making some progress or tearing the car up. I don't know which way you want to look at it, but anyway, I'm unfortunately stuck in that bug of while I'm in there I might as well do this or that. So this is kind of starting to escalate and I need to stop it. But anyway, this is where I'm at right now. This is the Coast 331 that I've mentioned before, and I've been putting it back together. And everything's been going together pretty well. And one video I had talked about that to straighten the deck out on this block, they ended up having to take 9/1000ths off the top. So then on the pistons, they were sticking out about 8/1000ths above the deck after that. And these are probed forged flat tops. And so I ended up having to take those in and have 8/1000ths taken off the pistons, because the compression is already a little bit high, and then having them sticking up above the deck that high, I just didn't trust it. So anyway, that's where I'm at. ARP head studs, the GT40X heads that are heavily polished and ported, and these heads were completely rebuilt. So I think this thing will be pretty good. And this is also has a Ford Motorsport X303. I know it's an old school type of a camshaft, but I know these stock blocks don't take more than about 500 to 550 wheel horsepower, so it's like, why spend the money on the cam? I know with the turbo kit it'll do that easily, I'm pretty sure. But DSS main stud girdle, and everything's worked out pretty good there, so get that other head on and the rest of that put together and that'll be pretty good. And I ended up tearing the K-member out, took the suspension out. I thought I'd go ahead and replace the rack while I was in there. And if I had to take the rack off, I might as well go ahead and put a tubular K-member in there, because that 3.5-inch downpipe from the HP kit is really tight. So I thought I'd just go ahead and do that, free up some more weight anyway to offset the weight of the turbo kit and everything. But I was dismayed as I was working on this thing. This rust hole right here. Just absolutely, there was a bulge in the paint right in here when I was working on the, I think I was putting in the turbo piping or whatever. And so I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. So I took a screwdriver and it went right through the frame rail. And I was like, oh man. So I started digging and digging and digging. And there we go, I can see it a little bit better. And this entire area is completely rusted out. Right where this is where the bolt to the K-member goes in, right through here. And it was so rusted. Here's the, you can see where the thickness of the bolt was, and it was completely rusted. So when I went to loosen it up, it just torsionally twisted right in half. So that was kind of irritating. On one hand, it's like, how in the world does this happen? In the 15 years I've owned this car, it's been in the garage probably 80% of its life. I'm sure I've gone down some dirt roads, but not that many that I can remember. Anyway, when I popped a hole through here, sand, like it had been riding on a beach, came out of here. So when I started breaking this all out, this entire frame rail was just crammed full of sand. So the sand, obviously getting with water mixed in there, just rusted this whole thing out. So I think Late Model Restoration or one of those other groups sell some frame rail repair kits, or I could probably just cut all this out, use some steel and just rebuild the whole thing myself. I don't know, but anyway. So that was kind of disappointing. You can see the rust hole is square right through there. So anyway, that's where I've gotten. I think in the first video I was talking about how I was welding up my frame or the fender aprons, and I got to working on that pretty heavily. And I am not the greatest welder when it comes to the super thin sheet metal. So I got into that, burnt through it a couple different times, filled in a lot of the holes, but then I gave up on that and said, forget it, I'm just going to do those Scott Rod fabrication fender aprons. So that's what I'm going to do. And the suspension is sitting right over there. And of course, while I'm at it, I'm thinking, well, man, I could put some cross-stilled rotors on there. And I'm like, no, I'll do that later. So anyway, it's just kind of a nasty little snowball effect that I'm kind of in right now. But that's about it for now. And one thing I might mention here too is that a curiosity or being cheap? I don't know which one you want to call it. I ordered this double roller timing chain off of eBay. And it's not Comp or Cloys or any of those. It's kind of a no-name brand. I think the group that sells it is called Demotor. Anyway, I wanted to check this thing out, and just even popping the box open, it's a pretty cheap-looking kit. What I had on there originally was a JP Performance from Australia, and it was a 9-way indexed timing chain set. But this is the JP Motors, and then this was the newer one, and it's significantly thinner, so maybe it's for an older 302. But the crank keyway, when you put that on the crankshaft, that thing would move back and forth on a solid 8/9 thousandths. It is not tight on there at all, and it may be no big deal, but I don't trust that kind of a loose tolerance. This thing was so thin that when you went to go tighten it down, the dowel actually came through the on the camshaft, actually came through this. So I'd probably end up having to do some kind of a spacer, but I didn't want to do that. The chain, it's probably kind of hard to see in the video, but the chain compared to the Comp and this JP thing, this thing just looks Chinese sweatshop like crazy. So I ended up ordering another Comp cam double roller chain. So this is just something you might look out for on eBay. I don't know, it could be completely good, but something just didn't feel right about it. But that was just another little deal that I was messing around with. But that's about it, really. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you later.